This is utterly joyful. I'm having a lovely
Oh my
time.
God, I'm having a blast. Just do this every day.
So just quickly, before we go into more detail on it, just for the sake of the visual recording, I made a boo-boo. I did not record the beginning of our conversation on Zoom. Can you just, for our visual clips, can you just give a brief intro again, just say what your speech is, briefly why you love it, and I'm sorry you're having to say this twice to me.
Girl, please. I had a rehearsal. It's Hermione from The Winter's Tale, and it is Act 3, Scene 2. She has been accused of infidelity by her husband, and her son has been locked up, and she has been dragged out directly after giving birth to her daughter to stand in a public square and defend herself. And she doesn't, she refuses to, which I think is very powerful.
There is a way Hermione speaks, I think, that I don't know that I've seen in other at least female characters that I know relatively well in Shakespeare, which is she has this incredible way of like just barreling through. She has these long sentences that make perfect sense, but they're sort of so long-winded. It's almost like she has this great ability to not let you interrupt her. End stop lines just don't really happen. Like I'm looking now, there's like one right at the beginning.
You're absolutely right. Oh my God, you're absolutely right.
Like one or two right at the start. Spare your threats.
Oh God, you're absolutely right.
You know, it's like she just goes like, I'm going to say my bit and you are not coming in. I just think she's so
not
cool.
giving them a chance to interrupt her.
No.
You've hit the nail on the head, because as we know, like, it is a challenge. You have to kind of, and I've met women nowadays, women in positions of power who've learned to go. And the other thing is, and if you just let me finish, and I think you'll find that we have to throw in these little verbal cues to be like, don't talk yet, like it's not your bit yet.
Yes.
You have to kind of, in fact, I think there's a thing that they said that there's a thing in female patterns of speech that have been historically denigrated by especially like sort of white male scholars of speech, where they talk about vocal fry and like ums and ahs, that women actually have this vocal fill-in that it's like, no, that's a social thing. Like it's a way of being like, I'm listening and I'm taking in what you're saying, and also like I'm sort of giving you, and it means please don't interrupt me, because if you go it's like I'm not done. So relevant, because she's talking about honor and about people's opinion of you and what people can say about you, and it's still so powerful, particularly with women, that women are still being killed for this, being murdered, hailed out to murder. Like that is not an old dusty concept at all.
No. Absolutely.
He's writing about this, you know, back in the day, he's writing about the absolute power that if someone is the king and says something about you, that's it.
How do you find doing accents? Are you happy with accents?
Yeah, I like them. I love them. Like I said, I was lucky. I grew up in a place with a lot of accents, so I've got kind of like a good ear for it. And I kind of have like a sort of quasi weird transatlantic thing going on, so I'm not sort of pinned to anything. I love doing them, and I almost kind of have to do them with every part that I find that I have never yet done a part that it sounds like me.
Really? Because I was about to say, I'd noticed a few. I was like, I know that you've obviously done a sort of RP, you've done German, you've done like a different type of Irish. You've done,
exactly.
You know,
the northern, German RP.
What was Jamestown?
Jamestown was Irish, but not me. And again, there was no reason for, in some other, and even in Jamestown, there's no reason why they can't sound exactly like me, but they just never do. Like, and I sort of find it comforting. It's like the wig. It's like putting on the corset. You like put on the voice, and then it is like not you.
I just wanted to pick out a bit that I thought was really cracking in your speech, which is when we were saying that thing about her, to just return to us talking about the fact that she doesn't let anyone speak. And we already mentioned that there aren't many end stop lines, meaning there aren't many lines where punctuation, like at the end of a line, showing that like a poem, you can just like take a breath. But there's one bit where near the end, she asks all these questions, she puts her case forward, like you said, and then she says, therefore proceed. Full stop, end of a line. And then she goes, but yet hear this. And I love that even more than what we were saying before about she carries on and, you know, you can't stop. I love how with Shakespeare in particular, in an interview with Toby Stephens on the show, he talks about the ambiguity of Shakespeare and what a gift it is, that it can be really ambiguous. And I think here it's like, I love that. You could play it as, therefore proceed, brief breath, but hear this, as in almost funny, not funny, but, you know, actually, no, don't proceed yet. But you could also read that and play that as, therefore proceed, stop. No one fucking says anything, because she is so, like, she has so silenced them, you know. And then, so then she takes an opportunity to go, okay, one more thing then, if no one's going to speak. I really get the hots for fun, like line structure, verse structure in Shakespeare. I just think there's so much fun to be had.
I understand there's a whole range of scholarship about like how much did he mean it, how much was he just doing it, how much, like, and I think it's something in the middle. I do not by any means think the guy sat down with a quill and was like, I'm gonna put an end stop here because of it, but he just was a genius. So like, this Bach, Beethoven, if they're composing, it just comes through anyway.
Yes,
I think you're absolutely right. And I think the reason that they don't, that even were there to be a pause there, which there is, you're at a rare enough pause in this kind of like sort of barreling like list. The only reason no one does interrupt, and the reason that they wouldn't, is because she's made it so clear. She's laid out this beautiful list, and she's made it so clear that she's not going to go, therefore proceed, and this is fine. Like they'd all be standing there in absolute terror. Like, therefore proceed. It's like when somebody's mad at you and they go, no, go on. They're like, hey, I don't want to. And you can absolutely, like, she with the speech before as well, she's laid it out so clearly that you know this is not going to be the ending. You absolutely know she's not done when she goes, therefore it's fine.
Because obviously you have ended up doing more telly than theatre. Have you had any telly writing where you've been really like, this is nice, juicy?
Ooh.
Because I feel as a general rule that telly is brilliant and those writers are incredibly skilled, but it tends to be a less eloquent medium, or a medium where like the wordplay, you know, there's something inherently theatrical about wordplay. So a lot of the time I think a telly script can feel much more what's the word I'm looking for, like practical.
You're completely right. And also, like, they've got to do that. The whole goal of TV is honesty. You got to tell the truth. It's like brutal and kind of gritty honesty, because if the camera's there and you're lying or you're being theatrical in any way, it will like tell. I have seen some massive, what we would call theatrical, because I don't think it's to do with size. I think that's it. People think it's to do with size. They think the telly means small and theatre is big, and it's the complete opposite. It's because I've seen huge telly acting, big Shakespearean performances, and I think that's what they're doing on Thrones at the moment. So I love it so much. They are doing like Lear and Macbeth. They are doing big, fat Shakespearean performances, and it totally works because there's dragons in that show, and it's absolutely but like, if you were going, and I've seen people do that on Holby, and it's beautiful. But if you are going for realism, right, who have got to aim for kind of like a more truthful way of speaking, which is not, nobody you and I are umming and ahhing, nobody talks like this in real life unless they've written it out and they've kind of thought about it. It is theatrical and it's magical.
Can I quickly ask, how much fun was it to make Sandman?
The most fun. Can I say the greatest thing about Sandman? Which was it was the most fun in the world. I'm like a massive fan. I've read it since I was 14. I'm like a super duper like Neil Gaiman hyper fan. So I was already like, oh my God. Just being in that world. And it was the sort of swizziest thing I've done. It was like DC and Netflix. So it was quite swizzy. So like the trailer was very swizzy, the gift bag, everything about it was like quite swizzy. And I was like,
the gift bag,
babe. So you like it, exactly. I was like not expecting a gift bag.
I mean, it's the age-old thing that is totally wrong, of course, but like celebs who don't need loads of free stuff get so much free stuff. Like I remember like 10 years ago or something, I was helping Vanessa Kirby do a self-tape. And at the time she was going out with Douglas Booth, and he had gone to like some big award ceremony the night before and had come back with so many freebies. It was like a cardboard box full of freebies in the living room. And she was like, oh, babe, do you want to help yourself to anything you want in the box? And it was like a lucky dip for adults. It was so much fun. I was like, yes. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to take this hairbrush. I'm going to take these little like Ugg boots. I'm going to take these little like, oh my God, there was so much. And some sunglasses that I took out of there that were Vogue, right? Which isn't a brand, but is obviously a brand. Like Vogue had made some sunglasses. And I had these sunglasses. They lasted me for like 7 years. I loved them. And then I left them in a bloody Uber in LA.
But they were like anyway, one off, made for this thing, made for the box. You'll never get them again. You can't find them, you can't replace them because they came out of the box. I
feel like the listener should know that we have been talking for an hour and a half, and I'm going to have to find some way of cutting this down to 35 minutes.
35 minutes? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. It was my bad.
You have nothing to apologize for. It has been such a joy, and I would rather have too much conversation than too little.
What a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. That is like the most fun I've had in weeks. That was great.
Oh, Thank you so much. Say it again.
Stop, don't stop.